It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Hey, today I have a brand new guest on the end of the day with Ray. Her name is Jennifer Bleem. Jennifer Bleem has been in the IT security services business for over 18 years. She spent some time with our friends over at Continuum. And Jennifer, it's so great to have you at the end of the day with Ray, and I look forward to talking with you. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, Jennifer, you know, our friends in the imaging channel, our friends even in the IT services space, everybody's paying attention to IT security services. Some people think all they got to do is put IT security on their website and they're already in the business. Some people think because their copier's secure, they're in the IT securities business. And you're the expert, and I want to talk to you about IT security. So tell us a little bit about your business, and the name of your company is MSP Revolution, Sales Revolution. And you know, what are you doing to help people understand IT security? Because boy, they need some understanding.
Yeah, there is a ton to understand for sure. So yep, it is indeed MSP Sales Revolution. And what I do is help IT companies and technology service providers figure out what their packaging should be, their pricing, and then of course we've got to go into sales and marketing. And so it's everything around that whole thing, which you could encompass it by saying taking security to market. So what are we going to sell? What's our profit margin? And then how do I actually convince the prospects and the clients, and they're typically small businesses, how do I convince them to buy from me and to spend money that they've never had to spend before? Because security is new to us, but it's really new to the small business owners.
Yeah, and they need it. They need to pay attention to it. A lot of them are paying attention to it, a lot more than they ever did before. So let me ask you a question. I mean, it's simple math. When I spent some time with my buddy Milton Bartley at ImageQuest in Nashville, you know, we sold everybody on a seat basis. So in other words, we were probably at $250, $300 per seat, per knowledge worker, as we called it. If you look at the IT security services piece of that, you know, because that's an additional product. That's not IT services. A lot of people think that IT security services is IT services. It's really not. It's not about the firewall. It's about above the firewall. So explain a little bit about that deliverable. And
Yes.
what does that cost an end user on a per seat basis, and what do they get for that?
Yes, so yes, you're right. It is absolutely something different. I mean, IT and security do overlap a bit. I like to say it's that proverbial Venn diagram, but they are not the same thing. And that's probably one of the big things you have to approach when you're having that conversation with the business owner, is helping them understand that IT is different from security and explaining why that is. And more importantly, the business implications of security and the business implications of ignoring security. And what it costs really depends on your profit margins. It depends on what you're building into the stack. I have seen stacks that are a little bit lighter, be more maybe $40, $50 a month per endpoint, so per user per month. I've also seen much more robust stacks being $125 per endpoint per month. And so it really just depends. Sometimes there is some, I call it the multitude of evil, where really before you can build a solid security stack, if you are building that on top of managed services, you have to make sure that what you've delivered in managed services is the bare minimum or the best practice. And so sometimes there is some evil that you have to bridge there, and you have to do that so that you are building on a firm foundation before you start to worry about security.
Well, you know, that's a great point, because a lot of times if you don't have the proper stack, if you don't have the right deliverable in the core IT services deliverable, you're going to try to do something more on top of that. So that's an interesting point. But I'm just thinking of your $40 number. I think you have, when I was reading a little bit about you, but you know, folks, if you had 40 endpoints that you were managing as an IT services company, say you're a smaller IT services company, and you could get 75% of those endpoints a security product for $40 more a month, that's $12,000 a month in reoccurring revenue, just like that. So, and that's at the lower side of the $40. Tell me a little bit about the security. So when I look at security for IT security services, the piece that I see missing from nearly everybody that talks about this, except for a very few, is the education component. I mean, there's dollars in education, and why are our friends missing that? What's missing there?
Now, when you say education, are we talking about educating the end users, or are we saying educating the service providers?
Well, you're going to educate the service providers, but how do we get these service providers to be able to capitalize and actually make some money off of educating the end users? Because we don't see that.
You're right, and a lot of it goes back to there's a fabulous book called Gap Selling, and the author of that book is Keenan, and he always says no gap, no sale. And part of the challenge with security is that you are having to educate the user that what they were doing, what they're doing today, if they haven't changed it in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, then they aren't even keeping up with the bad guys. And so you and I know what that means. We immediately think, oh, ransomware, lost intellectual property, 10 days of downtime, a month of downtime, lost clients. We can immediately make the connection between a cyber breach and what the impact is to the end user, to that customer. But the customer cannot make that connection. And so it's important for you to paint, some people call it the business implications or the business impact, because otherwise all you are doing is saying, hey, can you write me a check for this new technology stuff that they've never had to write a check for before. And you have to remember you are talking to the end user that typically hates technology, and they hate anything having to do with technology. It's a necessary evil in their mind. So when you say buy more of this technology stuff that you hate, there's a disconnect. And so you have to get into their world, what they care about, and what you have to educate them on is why they need this, because of the evil that awaits them if they don't start to adopt security.
Are you seeing a lot of the partners today, because of the COVID situation and the work from home and all these things that have been going on over the last 9 or 10 months, are we starting to see more adaptation from the end users themselves saying, you know what, we need to really start talking about security, or is this still driven by the sales force?
It's a little bit of both. It's definitely still driven by the sales force, but we are starting to hear more awareness on the part of the business owner because they are seeing the phishing attacks. They are realizing, oh, my employees are working from home. That might be somewhat different. And we can say, yes, it's very different, and have that technology conversation from a business standpoint. So COVID is actually, it's an opportunity in disguise. Because the traditional network has changed. It's not behind a physical building anymore. So we can lean on our expertise when it comes to what we know about VPNs and cloud security and some of those same things. But now the end user is aware and awake that something has changed. And so just the physical location is different, and so sometimes that unlocks their brain to be able to say, oh, so maybe we do need to do something different, and that's an opportunity.
Well, it'd be a great opportunity, especially, today I'm thinking with the remote technology like us using Zoom here today. Do you help resellers have educational platforms for their end users? I mean, is that something your business does?
Yeah, so a lot of what I do is content aggregation, where I share, here's a great article, here's what you should do with this article. So, okay, maybe, Dark Reading put out a fabulous article, but it's too technical for the end user to understand. I will make 3 to 10 suggestions on how you take that content that's already been created for you, and how do you use that content that is too technical for the average user, but take that same content and use that to educate the user. And sometimes it's dissecting that article and turning it into a live, or dissecting the article and turning it into a blog post. Don't copy and paste it. I'm not talking about plagiarism, but I'm saying when you see an article that you're like, my users need to understand that, but man, that article's way too technical, translate it for them. The content is out there. So that's a lot of what I do is teach my clients how to aggregate that content, and I do some of that aggregation for them so that they can then educate the user, which is the marketing job, so that sales is that much easier.
Do you have the expertise? I'm sure you do, but can you help the resellers determine who to partner with around their IT security services? Do you have those relationships?
So the interesting thing is that I am vendor agnostic. So I can help them determine, I need a vendor that does X, and I can tell them here are 5, 6, sometimes 3 vendors that will do X, and I can give them the pros and cons of each, but I am vendor agnostic. I don't recommend a specific vendor.
Can you help let's just say that they have a very low maturity level around security, can you help them determine what X is? Like,
Yes.
I need X, but here's why you need X kind of thing. That's great.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So how long have you been in business with your current business right now, MPS Sales
Yeah,
Revolution?
it's been about a year. So when I did leave my previous life, I decided, you know, there is a huge need to educate IT companies and technology service providers on how to take security to market. So that was about a year ago that I launched, and it has been a very fun, I mean, as with any business, right, ups and downs, but very, very fun year, very rewarding year for sure.
Well, I got to tell you, it's a very important topic. We got to educate end users. It's nice to hear that we're getting more awareness from those end users where they're actually starting to reach out a little bit. And I think they're going to reach out more and more. I mean, that's not going to slow down any, that's for sure.
Correct. I would
So
agree.
it's a great resource. They can call Jennifer Bleam and she's going to help them out. That's a fantastic thing. Is there anything you want to add before we end?
The one thing I would say is that I do have a free 30-day course, I guess you could call it. Literally, I come into your inbox probably 23 of those 30 days, and I walk you through exactly the process that I take my private clients through.
Okay.
Now, certainly what I can do in an email is different than what I can do if we're engaging one-on-one, but if you are looking for a step-by-step, very methodical way to figure out how to go to market with cybersecurity, sign up for that 30-day email sequence. You get me in your inbox every day. It's at cybersecurityroadmap.com and literally takes you through exactly the same formatting that I take my private clients through.
Well, that's great. And I'll make sure we put a link to that on this video as I post it. So, Jennifer, it's important. Cybersecurity is important. It was fantastic having you on the end of the day with Ray. And, you know, anything we could do to help our friends get more educated, more importantly, be able to educate their end users is what we want to do. So I appreciate your time because, you know, Jennifer, we all know this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and we'll see you all tomorrow.